Okay, so we'll go according to what has been planned. So first things first, this is the basic data that we'll work on. In this data, we'll do a lot of things. Basically, we'll apply various functions. We'll try doing a dashboard activity, and we'll look at a few of the shortcuts that are there. So this will be what will majorly be covered. We'll look at sorting, we'll look at filtering, we'll look at subtotals, we'll look up index match, aggregate functions, and then we'll go to dashboarding. So this is what we'll cover. So this Excel will be shared after the session with all of you guys. So just starting with it quickly. So the data looks something like this. We have the name, roll number, and then we have the marks of students for 6 subjects, and the rest of the things will be calculated. So this is with the solution. So we can just show the functions in here. And if there is any doubt at any point, like you can ask in the chat or maybe even ask verbally, like there is no issues. It's a chill session only. So going forward, the first thing that we'll look at is VLOOKUP. So Shishir. So the first things that we look at is, so VLOOKUP comes with 2 attributes. So basically there are 4 attributes in the VLOOKUP function. So if Shishir, you can just put a simple VLOOKUP function and then we can look at the attributes. Yeah. Rajit, can you share the doc via mail?
Yeah, I'll be sure.
Yeah, so basically there are 4 functions, 4 attributes in VLOOKUP function. First is the lookup value part. So in the lookup value, like Shishir नीचे ही चले जा, ये जहाँ पे लगाया हुआ है false, VLOOKUP with false वाले में. So we have put in, if we look at this, first things what we want to do in the VLOOKUP function is that we have to get the marks in this particular subject, that is marks in HR, according to the roll number that has been given. So FT 22 252. For this person, we have to get the marks for HR from the data tab. So this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve. So in this, there are 4 basic attributes that we see. So it is like the previous table in the data tab is considered as a 2-dimensional array. In that, first things we look is that in which row is the FT 22 252 present. So first thing we have to look at what is the lookup value that we have. So we'll get it from this sheet itself, that is this roll number. So here, as you can see, B19 is selected, that is this roll number. And post that, then we have to give an array to this function. In that array, it will look for this roll number, and accordingly, it will give a particular column value when it looks at this particular roll number. So how it looks at this roll number, if we go to the data sheet. So what happens in the VLOOKUP is that whenever we select the array, the first column that should be there should be the roll number column only. So whichever thing we want to look up, so it will only look up in the first column. If we do not select the roll number column as the first column, then VLOOKUP will fail. So that is one of the downsides of this function as well, and that's why we prefer index match. So in this, when we select the array, we select starting from the roll number column, and then we select accordingly till wherever we want, and then we start giving a number as to what column value we want. So herein we select this, let's say, and then we give the number as for, if we look at marks of finance or marks of operations, we can give the number as second column or third column. So that will be third attribute. So till now we have looked at 3 attributes. First will be the lookup value, which roll number we want. Second will be the lookup array. So this will be the lookup array. And then we give a number, that is the column number that we want the particular value from. So in this case, for example, if you want marks of finance, it will be column number 2. If we want operations, then it will be column number 3, and so on and so forth. And then the last thing is, if we want a perfect match or an imperfect match or a like probable match. So that if we give a false attribute or a 0 attribute, then it's a perfect match. So perfect match means that if we look at this 100 a roll number, then we want exactly marks in finance. So that is perfect match. In 99% of the cases, perfect match is only used. So we always put 0 or false at the attribute. So if we go back to the VLOOKUP tab, so herein if we see, we have clearly put 0 as the attribute and got the marks for HR. That is 24 for the roll number FT20 to 252. So this is how we use VLOOKUP with the false or 0 attribute. That is the last attribute. So this is the basic VLOOKUP function. The one of the cases where true is used is given above. If we go above, so this is called the range lookup function. So what happens in the range lookup function is that we have a range of values. Okay, Shishir, you can stop sharing. I'll share my screen. No worries.
इधर के
So herein we have, so I'll just do one VLOOKUP and maybe show the same. So when we are doing this, we have to also take care of the locking that we are doing of cells. So in this case, for example, when I'm locking the B column, so in this case, when I'm locking the B column, it just means that even if I go to the right, like from the F column to G column to H column, and I want to apply the same lookup function, then the B column will still be locked and we won't go to C or D. So this locking is very important whenever you apply any function, and particularly when we do it for the array, because we have to see the whole array and we want to drag the formula downward. So in this case, I'm only doing for 3-4 columns. So like finance is, I think, the first one itself. So we get the marks for finance for 252. So accordingly, we can simply drag the formula and we get the data for whatever we want. So if we look at this, this is dragged, but the array remains the same, B4 to E304, as we go down as well. So this is what the VLOOKUP looks with false as the attribute. When we go to true as the attribute, so the only difference is that in this case, this attribute will change. The last 0, it will become 1. So what we want to do here is that the question states that in the data sheet generate the grades of the students according to the following criteria. So if the marks are between 0 and 20, they get an F grade. If the marks are between 60 and 80, they get a B grade. So in this, we simply make a range of the marks. So from 0 to 20, there will be an F grade. From this, there will be a D grade and so on. We have made a range of marks with only the lower limit present, and accordingly we do a range lookup. So if we look at all we have done is we have looked up these marks and we have taken that table and we have just pushed true as the attribute. So according to the marks, we have taken the grade that is there and we have assigned the grade here for all of the subjects according to the marks that were there in the subjects. So this is mainly what true attribute is used. Generally false ही use होता है, true is not used. So this is the lookup function. This is all that the lookup function has, the VLOOKUP function mainly. And now going to the index match function, if there is any doubt, yeah, like feel free to ask. I am also not an expert in Excel by any way. मेरे को भी कुछ सीखने को ही मिल जाएगा and in the worst case scenario. ठीक है, moving on. So this is the index match function. This is not rocket science like a lot of people think, but okay. So this is how this is used. So this has three ways. This is how I use it. Like many people use it in different ways as well. So basically I use one index and two matches. So what exactly this does is that, for example, we have a simple table. Let's say 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. So in this, let's say we have a value here, 20, and we want to get this particular value. So what index match will do is it will look at the column that is this is present in, and it will look at the row that this is present in, sorry, this 0, and it will look at the column that this is present in, and accordingly see, okay, 20 value is present here. So we'll just give the function the input that, okay, I need the second row value, the value that is present in second row and the B column. So that way it pinpoints this value and gives us that particular value. So both the match functions are basically to say that, okay, I want the value. If we take the first value that is present with the roll number FT22 252 and the marks finance, and there we get the value as 54. So basically this is what we are telling the index function, that we want this particular value, and the index is basically just the array. Why this can be used is that the VLOOKUP, unlike the VLOOKUP, the first column need not be the column that has the lookup value. So if we simply want to look at this, let me just make this bigger maybe. So first we have the array. So this is the data array, nothing, no rocket science. Just the array that we have, this complete array from wherever you want, name or anyway, this array. For that we have the first match function that simply takes, so how the match works is that if I have to put a match function, so it will have three attributes again. और काम करते हैं, मैं लगा ही देता हूँ. So first thing is the array. So I'll just get the array from name, and then I do this. Then I put the first match function. So there is the, again, same thing, lookup value, lookup array, and the match type. So herein I have the lookup value as this roll number. Then I'll have the lookup array. In this case, the lookup array will be this particular roll number column, because I have to look in this array only so that I can find the particular match. And again, in this case, we need an exact match, so we'll put in 0. This is the first match function. So this is for matching the row. Then we'll get the second match function. This is for matching the column. So again, we have the lookup value. So we'll look at marks finance. Then we have the lookup array. So I took from name itself. So I'll get all of this. So I took till n. So I'll get till a to n. And again, we have the exact match. I close both the brackets and I get the value here. So why index match is preferred over all of the other things is that we just have to put one formula and the whole table is filled. You don't have to do anything else. That's why index match is preferred in a lot of corporates. So this was it. Again, this is a bit complicated function. Once you start applying this, or maybe even you start doing it in this Excel, you'll be able to understand better. Anything that anyone wants to ask? Okay, going forward, we have the aggregate functions. So in the aggregate functions, we'll do it in two ways. First would be we'll do in the basic average if format, and then we'll look where this average if exactly came from. So this is an array formula. So through this array formula itself, this average if function will do. Similarly, we'll do the sum if as well. And later in here, we have the array formula wherein we do the median if. So these are the three basic functions that are there. अभी तक median if का function आया नहीं है. As far as I know, when I was working, median if नहीं आया था. Maybe it has come now. I am not sure. But these two functions are there, sum if and average if, which are very useful. So basically, why this if thing comes is that we can put a particular condition on it that okay, we want only the roll numbers that are greater than 200, or we want only the students who have marks that are higher than 90, and then we want a particular average. Works? So in these cases, we would like to use these aggregate functions, and so that's it. So basically, for example, if we look at the first one itself, so we want to compute the average of OB marks of students with roll numbers greater than 200. So in this case, first thing that we have done is that we have just separated this roll number, this 100, 101 out here. So this again can be done in two different ways. It's a detour that we are taking here. So two different functions we learn. One could be the right, left, and mid function. So that is basically it will tell how many spaces that we want to take from the right or left or mid. So I have to apply the left function. If we see, we just have the text and the number of characters. So let's just take this and let's just put 2 as the number of characters. So first 2 characters are here. Similarly, we have a right function. So if we have to see the right function, so it has the same basic thing. So if we do this and put 3, then we have 100. So we have just put right B5 3. So we have the roll number here separated. If we drag this down, we can have the roll number for all of the people. So this could be one way to separate the roll number from this FT 2200. The second way, and a way maybe that works a bit better, is these two things. One is number value and one is substitute. So number value is nothing. Number value just takes in an input and converts it into number. If you have 300 as text, it will convert it into number and show. It has single input. The second thing is the substitute function. So what the substitute function does is that, and this is very commonly used as well, it takes an input and in that it substitutes any one of the text value to another. For example, if we take anything and substitute, for example, we take this A and let's say, so we take this thing, then we substitute the A with let's say Y. So this A becomes Y. That's it. That's the substitute function. So in this case, for example, I substituted the FT22 and all of this dashes with nothing. So I just put double quotes. So it became nothing and there is only 100 remaining. So that 100 just comes up. So that's how I have used the substitute function. Again, this is not the primary target that we want to achieve, the primary function that we want to learn, but some additional functions that are pretty useful. Something like this comes up easily. This can be easily Googleable. People can, like, everywhere these kinds of solutions are there. But good to know about this as well. So I've just separated the roll number and then I've put in the aggregate function. So I've just, so average if is simple. So average if you have to take the range, then you have to mention the criteria, and then you have to mention what is the average range. So in this case, the criteria is that the OB marks of the students with roll numbers greater than 200. So we'll get to the roll number column that we have. We have separated it here. So we just select this, we freeze the whole thing. So we have to freeze by pressing F4, by the way. Then we put a criteria. So herein we have a criteria that the roll number should be greater than 200. So how we put the criteria for greater than? If you have exactly 200, then you can just say 200 and it will do equal to 200. Here, because we have greater than, so you have to do it this way. This is how most people do it. Again, you can do this way also. One way is just put everything in double inverted quotes. The way I prefer it is that I put greater than in double inverted quotes, then I put an ampersand, and then I put 200. This is the general way people do it. So, and then you can just select the average range. So for me, the average range would be the marks for OB. So this is the marks for OB. And yeah, it works. So nothing too difficult here, I guess. You just have to take care of two things. First thing, how to put the greater than sign. And second thing, what to put where. So when you write any function, you already have what has to be put in which order. First, you have to put the range, then the criteria, then the average range that is there. So in this way, you can just follow this order and do the sum if as well. And again, creating extra columns to calculate data is nothing to be ashamed of, at least according to me. You can create any number of extra columns, just hide it in the main sheet, and it keeps working. So similar thing when we have to do with the index array formula. So we just jump ahead, or rather than jumping ahead, I'll just bring this here. We can do a simpler array formula first, which is for the median part, and then we can go to that because that integrates the substitute function inside only. अभी तक कुछ है क्या, कोई डाउट, एनीथिंग? Okay. So going here for the array formula, basically two things have to be kept in mind. First thing is it is a median if function in this case. So because there is no specific median if, it's just median, and then we put an if function inside. So how the array formula works is that you have a particular array and then you give a particular condition to that. For example, I have this array 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have given the condition the number should be greater than 2. So when the computer looks at that array, it will look at it in this way. So when it will look at the condition, then it will look at each element, and then it will give a true or false to each element. So for example, this is false, this is false, this is true, this is true. And once it gives this true or false to each element, the elements that have true will be passed to the next particular condition. So in that way, if I do a sum if here, and this is how aggregatives also work in the function that they have made, is just through this array formula only. So if I do sum if here and then give this condition, it will look at the whole array, it will assign true, false, and then it will only take the ones that are true, and then it will put a sum here. So the answer would be 7. So this is how it works. In the aggregatives as well, it's the same way. So when I do a median if, I'll just give the array. I'll say that okay, if this particular array is greater than 90, which means it will check each and every element. Then if this is true, then give me this particular array. So you can give another array. So basically, let's say I have an array. I'm doing this. So here I'm checking this, and then I'm saying give me 10, 20, 30, 40. So first check according to column number A. If this is true or false, I have checked. I get that, okay, these two values are true. If this is true, then give me column number B. So I'll give 30 and 40. And then in if condition, we also have what if it is false. So I'll just say that give me a blank value. So double quotes. So give me a blank value. And with the blank value, so basically when you do a median or an average, the blank values are ignored. They are not considered. Sum, when you do a sum also, the blank values are not considered. So that's very important. So basically, once you do this, you can just get it. So in this case also, there's an array. When this array is greater than 90. So let's say for now, we'll consider this array. This array is greater than 2. Then give me this array, otherwise give me a blank value. Once that is done, the median function is applied for these values and we get the final result. So that's how this works basically. And for the aggregate functions, the one thing that has to be done is you don't have to just press enter. You have to press Control Shift Enter. So I'll just write it here. Control Shift Return. So you have to press this rather than just return, and then only the array formula will work, because this curly braces has to be put so that the array is basically looked at one by one and computed. Otherwise, the array will not be looked at one by one and computed, and an error will be thrown by Excel. So this is how this is done. I can apply the array formula, but it's the same thing. So you can just maybe look at the array formula once, and if there is any doubt, you can reach out to me afterwards as well. So here also the same thing is done. When we look at this array formula, just that the substitute is put inside itself and the function is run. You can do it separately also in a column. You can put it inside. It's the same thing, no difference. Any doubt till here? कुछ भी है तो बता दो. Perfect. So moving forward, we can quickly do 2 or 3 things. This we'll do in Shishir's laptop. The other 2-3 things we can quickly complete. So basically, we just have to look at sorting. So sorting में there are 2 simple methods. One thing you can do is put a filter. So just select the headings. The shortcut for filter is Control Shift L. Once you put the filter, just open the filter, and then there is sort ascending or descending. You can do that. So that is the major thing. Second, you can go here.
KK, can you repeat the shortcut?
Yeah. Control Shift L. So I have written the shortcuts here. इसमें I don't think the Control Shift L thing is there, but these are the major shortcuts that are used.
Okay, KK, thank you.
And I use. I'll update the Control Shift L also. So basically, I'll tell. So this is the shortcut for this. You just have to use Control plus Shift plus L, and accordingly you can put it. And when you go here, you just have ascending, descending. You can do using this. You can sort using this, or you can use this function that is in Data tab to sort accordingly. No rocket science. Sorting is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just something that you should keep in mind: when there is a formula in the Excel, never sort it. When you sort a formula Excel, it is not sorted according to the values in the Excel. It is sorted according to the formula. पूरी शीट खराब हो जाएगी. We have done this a lot at work, and then काफी डांट आती थी इस पे. A lot of scolding I have had personally. So never sort a formula Excel. I never sort an Excel anyways. I do it using formulas and never sort an Excel. So please keep that in mind. Formula Excel should never be sorted. Don't learn sorting. I'll say that's better. Going forward, filters and subtotals. Again, nothing very difficult. So subtotal is a very, very handy function. Generally, people don't use it, but it is very handy. So basically, in a filtered Excel, you can clearly get the average and all of that. So how the subtotal looks is that when you do the subtotal, you have all of these functions that you can do, like average, count, count a, max, min, so on and so forth. And you can just, for example, if I have to do the average, I just select the whole array. For example, here I have selected the array from C11 to C24. This array is, I can just clear filter. I select the whole array from C11 to C24 here, and then I just do the average. So this just does the average for the finance ones, finance marks. So if I, let's say, filter in marketing, I say I only want, let's say, these 3 marks. I only want these 3 marks. I apply the filter. Accordingly, the finance marks are also filtered and uska average aa jata hai. That is 52. So why subtotal is used is that on top of every single this, for example, marks, subtotal is applied. Here subtotal is done, and we can see the average and all of that for those particular columns. So it is easier, like if you are doing data analysis, you can clearly see that, okay, when you apply this filter, what is the average, what is the minimum, what is the maximum. Those kinds of simple analysis is presented on top of the table itself. One thing that you should keep in mind, very normal sa thing hai, when you do any filter or anything, just do subtotal or any aggregate function that you are doing on top of the table. Don't do it in between or like on the side, because when you filter na, वो गायब हो जाएगा. It will just vanish because filter will take those cells off, only show the cells that are relevant. For example, here 11, 12, then 23. So if that formula is applied in the 13th or 14th cell, you won't be able to see when the filter is applied. Again, very small sanity checks that can be done. Yeah. So इसके अलावा what's there? Array formula हो गया, aggregate हो गया, text to columns we'll just do in some time, sorting हो गया, filter हो गया, conditional formatting. Okay, so conditional formatting, I sat with Shishir, I was talking to him. So both of us agreed that conditional formatting is something that shouldn't be done much in Excel. Why? Because it makes the Excel very, very bulky. The size will increase. I have had a specific problem wherein we gave the client the Excel and they were like, yeah, this Excel is not even opening, because we had applied a lot of conditional formatting in that Excel. So it becomes very bulky. Systems are not able to open it. So keep conditional formatting to a minimum, only in the final view of the Excel, not in the data. In the data, conditional formatting should never be applied. Only in the final view, maybe conditional formatting can be applied to make it look a bit better. So generally, this is one place where conditional formatting really helps. So the correlation function. So basically, this is also a function that you can keep in mind, used a lot in consulting specifically. So you have to just look at what all, like these are the metrics that any student will be judged in, the performance will be judged in. What if these metrics are correlated or not? It's a simple function. You just have to use correl. Here I have used the index function. So again, a trick of the index function we'll discuss here. I use this a lot, but correl function is basically to see that if the marks in finance and the marks in operations are related or not. So If they are related, then you get a high correlation. If they are not, then you get a low correlation. And accordingly, you just select this table, go to home, go to conditional formatting. There are a lot of ways that you can do in conditional formatting. One of the major things that's done is like color scales. You can select the color scales: green, yellow, red. Red is less, green is more, basic things. Can clear the conditional formatting rules from here. Can set up new rules. Can like just go through this. There are a lot of things that can be done in conditional formatting. You can just go through these various windows, format accordingly as you want. And yeah, so the trick of the index function. So the index function, you can just take the whole column, all the rows in the columns of a particular column, and then accordingly you can apply the conditional form correlation function. So herein I have taken the all marks in finance. So what you do is that instead of putting the match in the row function, you just put a 0. That's it. Not very necessary to do right now. Just a trick that I use. So I thought it's worth mentioning. Anyways, going forward, conditional formatting हो गया. Correlation I have covered ऊपर से. Nothing more to cover actually in correlation. So these are the shortcuts. I'll add more of them. These are the main ones that I use. The major ones that here also are important is these 3. I cannot do it in Mac. It doesn't work. There is no Alt key. So what is to keep in mind is that the Alt key functions you have to press one by one. So first press Alt, then press E, then S, then B. So you will paste as values, paste as formulas. So you keep pressing Control and then you press the arrow keys so that you traverse through data. And when you press Control, Shift, and arrow keys, you just select the data wherever you traverse through. That's it. So this is the difference between Control and Alt shortcuts. You don't have to remember all of them. Just remember the ones that you generally normally use in your office. Remember the shortcuts for them. You will become really fast. काम जल्दी हो जाएगा. You'll get to sleep early. That's it.
KK, I have a small doubt.
Sure.
In the formula bar, like, can we go to the previous sheet? Okay, so in the formula bar, we have been using data and an exclamation mark. What does that do? Anything specific?
So yeah, so basically when you, yeah, that's actually a good question. So when you are in a particular sheet, for example, this is the data sheet. So the data and the exclamation mark basically refers to the data sheet. So when you are saying C5 to H304, kahan ka C5 to H304? There are multiple worksheets. So the way that Excel says ki, okay, this worksheets, these cells we have selected is by saying data exclamation mark and then going forward. So that's the way Excel writes things. One thing that a lot of people do is that when you put a formula, it also sometimes takes the same sheet's address. For example, conditional formatting exclamation. So for example, here it has taken. So a lot of people delete this because it is not required.
Okay, got it.
If there is nothing present, it means that it's in the same sheet. If something is present, it means that it's referring to a different worksheet.
Okay. Thank you.
No issues. Okay, so shortcuts are done. We'll do a quick dashboarding exercise. Shishir, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So we can just go through these two now, text two columns and the dashboarding, and then I think we'll be through.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
I hope it's visible, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
We can go through the text to columns first.
Yeah. One thing I guess you missed here,
Yeah.
was like triple layer sorting. So like usually what we have to do is we have to sort on a single column, let's just say finance, right? So we'll do, let's just say smallest to largest, and this will work. But what if you have to sort on a multiple layer? For example, the first layer would be finance, then ops, and then marketing. So if you have an, let's just say this particular, it's a tricky case of equality, right? 14-14. So if this matches, what would be the second layer of filtration, or what would be the second layer of sorting? So this again can be simply, put it from here. You can sort. Right. You can add your level accordingly. For example, the first would be finance, the second would be ops, and again a third level if you want, then marketing. And that's how you can sort it, right? All ascending, first ascending, second descending, according to the choices that you require. So I guess this clears up. Then let's move on to the text splitting. So there can be plenty of cases where you are, let's just say, copying data from a website. So the data would not be in a pretty much sorted order where you can just simply Control C, Control V in your Excel, and the formula will be split into across the Excel based on whatever that you have copied or that you have imagined that this is how your data will look like in an Excel. So here we use text splitting. Example, we have taken this sample Quizlet. So you can see the each say roll number is splitted by a pipe symbol, right? And if you want to copy it from somewhere, it will simply copy the whole text in a single cell, and it will look like this, which is definitely not of any use. For example, I'll clear it. So you can see all the data in a single cell. This is not what you have really imagined that your data will look like after copying. So how you can go ahead and sort it into across different columns would be, put it here. You can have text to columns. It will be in data tab. Then it would be delimited because you have certain characters which will be acting as a separator. So here are some I guess default delimiters: tab, semicolon, comma, space. You can go ahead and define your other symbol, let's just say pipe here. And you can see in data preview, each of them has been splitted whenever a pipe symbol is occurred. Click on next and then finish. And now you can see each cell has now the roll number. So this can be done with any other symbol as well. For example, comma, tab, double space, triple space. Just specify your particular delimiter, and this text to column will go ahead and simply split it across the columns. And then you can go ahead and use it as you wish. This would be splitting two rows. So I guess we have tried it from here. It was not running. Kiki, you want to try it again, or like I'll simply show the transpose wala piece?
Light. You can just show the transport wala thing.
Okay. So for example, it's a normal hack. For example, this is not you really wanted, right? What you have imagined it would be something roll number, and then let's just say 252, 234, and this is how it should go, right? But the split only works in columns. So how you can go ahead and organize it in a particular rows will be, just go ahead, copy, select any column wherever you want. In the paste, you have an option to transpose it. You can simply paste it like this, and all your particular splitted columns would be now go to rows. This is the simple transpose matrix that we usually do in mathematics, right? So all the rows or all the columns are converted into rows. So that's how you can split your text across rows. So you guys have any doubts here, or we can go ahead? Cool. I'll go ahead. So we'll do a pretty small exercise on dashboarding. So for example, this is just a normal dashboard that we have created. For example, this is how it will look like. There are certain charts, there are some slicers. the splitters, how it will work, how it will not. So I'll go through it, how you can create such a simple dashboard using the combination of pivot tables and few charts. So I'll start with the pivot table first. So how you can create a pivot table is, so select an entire data set on which you want to have a pivot table inserted. Go to insert, and then there you have this pivot table option. So either the range that you have already selected, and then if you want to have it in a new worksheet, or if you want to have the table in the existing worksheet. So we'll try first new worksheet, and if you want to have it in an existing worksheet, just specify the location. For example, it would be in sheet 3, let's just say cell B32. From here, I want my new pivot table to be. Go ahead and click on OK, and it will have your pivot table at that particular location. And if you want to have it as a new sheet, again, try inserting pivot table, new worksheet. It will insert a new sheet just before the sheet that you were working on. For example, we were working on dashboard. So in the sheet 4, we have a new pivot table. So this is how you will create a pivot table. Now I'll just run through the significance of pivot table. So look at here, this looks quite interesting, quite exhaustive data of marks, grades. But what if you want to have a, say, compilation of people who have background across science, commerce? So what is the average marks in finance of the people who have science background? Or what is the average marks of people who have, say, arts background? So how you will go ahead is, you have created a pivot table, bring the columns across which you want to have a data. For example, I want to filter it, or I want to summarize it across the background column. And let's just say I'll take the say finance marks, right? So the total is here. What you can do is you can have multiple functions. So click on this particular arrow. It will open this say menu, and in value field setting, you can choose count, you can choose average, maximum, minimum. So for example, I'll choose average. So people who have arts background, they have average 49.18 marks in finance. So this is how you summarize. So a proper use case can be for your particular experience. For example, you have a campaign. So how many people, let's just say, who are from class A, class C, class S, they have said yes. So count of yes can be your second column, or count of no can be the column that you are measuring. So this is how you summarize your data across various combination of columns and rows. And this is how you do. For mathematical, you can have values such as average, maximum, minimum, product, according to your particular use case, like this. So is pivot table clear? Or like you guys have any doubts, feel free to, interrupt me in between. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll try to create charts using this particular sheets or the pivot table. So for example, let's just say we have, what we have done here is we have summarized it as the grade. So how many people have grade A in your particular data set? So what I have done is simply, if I want such a, summarization. So what I will do is, so my summarization would be across the grade column, right? So for example, the grade can be of finance. So I'll take it as rows. So all the distinct values will appear in this first column across the rows. So A, B, C, D, F are the distinct grades. Now I'll simply count the number of people. So it can be name or it can be roll number. So I'll use roll number, and the simple count is updated. Right. Now you can simply go ahead using this data, go to analyze, and you can have your pivot charts. If you want a column chart, it will look like this. You can have bar, you can have pie charts. So whichever chart suits you, or your creativity, it's up to you. You can use any chart. right? So let's just use this chart. Accordingly, we have some sample pivot tables. So this is for grade OB, and I guess this one is for grade of finance, and this one, let's just say grade ITM. So what I'll do is I'll create a dashboard on a blank sheet, right? So I'll bring all these charts, different charts that I have created using different tables. So let's just say I'll put this here. Then for OB, again, let's use this. And let's see what's it. Right. You can have any combination of charts in your dashboard that will suit your requirement, right? So these are the simple charts. Now what you can do is you can go ahead and bring a relationship between these charts. I haven't missed any chart, right? Cool. Yeah, one more thing I guess I forgot in the pivot table is you can also include a data model in your pivot chart. Again, traditional formatting. This will again be a bit bulky to try to avoid. So what this data model will bring is it will bring some extra attribute. For example, is one such function that this data model brings. So try to like this is won't be much of use to you guys. So, but yeah, this is again one thing that you can know. Now, what I can do is I can insert a slicer on, let's just say background. So what this slicer will do is it will sort your whole chart based on the attributes that you are selecting. So it will, as the word suggests, slicer. So it will simply slice on the basis of selection that you have made. So earlier, for example, if I don't select anything, right, it means everything is selected. So this whole total is from all the people across art, commerce, and science. Now let's just say I just want the pie chart for commerce students. So I'll simply click on commerce, and you can observe this whole chart has changed a bit. So this is the effective use of slicers. Now, what if you want to have a, say combination? So since you are on a dashboard, the slicer should work with all the charts, right? And you don't really want a separate slicer for each of your charts. So how you can do is you can simply bring in a relationship. You can simply establish a connect between number of charts that you want. ठीक है, this isn't working. एक बार तू ट्राई करेगा, पता नहीं क्या एरर है। इस वाली में ऑलरेडी वो होगा कनेक्शन।
Hello, sorry, I was speaking on mute. So, like Shishir had made a different pivot. Here already a pivot was made. 3 different charts have been put in. 3 pivots have been made in 3 different sheets. This is the dashboard, and 1 slicer has been created. So when you double click on the slicer, this is the slicer option. This comes in Mac. Windows में थोड़ा different होता है. Again, when you go to report connections, you have 3 pivot tables, 1, 5, 6, whatever names, and then you can just select whichever pivot table you want to connect to the slicer. For example, we have selected 2 here. If I select all 3 of them and press OK, then when I do this, all 3 of them start to change. If I go to report connections again, unselect one of them, 2 of them change, 1 doesn't change. You can do multiple, whatever you want to do. So this is the report connections part. I think there was some glitch on Shishir's side because of internet, but yeah, this is the report connections part.
Yeah, and for Windows, you won't see the slicer option, but you'll see a header called options, like just beside view. So in option again, you'll have a report connections button. Just click on that, and it will work the same way it works in Mac.
Perfect. So these were the things that we wanted to cover, that we had looked at were important according to us. If there is anything else that you think that should be covered or something that you want to ask, feel free to ask Avi. Also you feel free to ask later on. You can ping me anytime. If there is any particular doubt in Excel, yeah, kuch bhi ho, I'll be happy to address that. If I know it, of course, I'm also learning. So yeah. Anything else, guys? Kuch bhi. Then Rachit, over to you.
Thank you so much, KK and Shishir, for this session. I hope this was very informative for everybody. Thank you for taking out your time. Thank you guys for joining in. I'll be closing the session. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.